We're back at you in gloves off, and today we have a special, a couple of interviewers that were here. We have, and we're going to be talking about the violence in the protests that are going on, the violence that has expelled from the left, not really the Democratic Party, but it exists there. And we're talking to people that have seen that in a first-hand experience and how it was developed. And that's very simple. It's a simple name. It's called Antifa. And with me, I have Jello from San Antonio.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
Good.
Glad to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's start. And on the phone from Louisiana, we have Brett Gould. Brett, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, Paul. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Good to hear your voice. And on video, Skyping in from Berkeley, is Marco Gutierrez. Marco, how are we doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning.
Good. I want you guys to touch base a little bit of what your experience is with Antifa. Marco, you've seen it firsthand, haven't you?
Yeah. Actually, they have. I've seen it. I've been there on Berkeley 1.0, Berkeley 2.0, Berkeley 3.0, and this last time on Freedom of Speech Week. It's not just Antifa; it's also BAM, which is Yvette Falarca, with By All Means Necessary.
Okay.
So it's a group of they call themselves anti-fascists, and they're joining forces.
Okay. So there's basically several groups now that have all of a sudden spawned and are running around amok. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, but the Antifa, they remain. In the Antifa, you can identify them because they use their their flag, and they also use their masks. You can see you can really see who the Antifa guys are.
Let me tell you what my concern is, Marcos, is we all have uncles and aunts and brothers and sisters, and of course our grandparents, and some of them are very patriotic, and guess what? They say, you know what, I'm going to go say hi to our new president. Maybe I didn't vote for him, but he's still our president, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to wave a flag, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of punks running around beating him up. That's what concerns me. Have you seen that?
What I've seen is like in the Berkeley, where this you have professors, you have all kinds of people that are joining forces, and they do say, let's go hit some Nazis, and it's odd because there's a lot of Hispanics, there's Black, African Americans there's all kinds of people, so these people are definitely confusing us.
Correct. And you're very of movement, and there's a lot of people that say there's no Latinos that support Trump, and this and that. And I know that you're very much for Trump. And tell me your experiences that you've seen in some of the rallies, not only there, because you travel around the United States, correct?
Yeah, the most scariest event with Antifa, encounter with Antifa that I can tell you is in Portland, because there was probably about 3,000 of them. There was probably about 1,500 to 2,000 Antifa, which I don't know where they came from. I don't know if they were shipped there, but it was scary. And then you had people, you had all the Cesar Chavez or the Cosecha movement, and then you had all the unions. So when you have over 3,000 people trying to shut down your event, there was only like 500 of us. If the state troopers and the police would have not been there, these people, they'll kill us, because BLM was there too. And at the end, when we tried to get back to our cars, the anger that you see in these people, the way they see us, I mean, it's like we are their number one enemy.
And it's you brought up a great point. That point is anger. I have a lot of friends Some of them have their doctors, not only medical doctors, they have doctorates in jurisprudence. They're entrepreneurs. They're well established with this hate lingo that goes on against Trump and against others. And you're like, wait a minute. You know, when somebody, and let me put it to you this way. I voted for Obama the first time around. Okay. The second time that he came around, I said, nah, I can't. Okay, because I saw what was going on. Kind of woke up with a bunch of stuff that had occurred. People say, no, you're believing in conspiracy theories and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I started seeing a change. And that change was not what I want for our country, right? Now, here's another one that I'm going to tell you. I wasn't for Donald Trump in the beginning, but I knew that he was going to win. I was for Rand Paul. And I thought he was more sensible, a person that came out of, you know, he's been out there in politics. He has a little different vision. But when I saw Donald Trump go up against them, he just kind of beat everybody. And I said to myself, you know, he is a billionaire. He's been there. He's there because of his smarts. He's there because he's, you know, he knows how to run a business, how to advertise. And he showed the world that he did it. Now, what scares me, okay, I do not want a civil war. I do not want to strike at another American. I don't want to do anything of that, okay? What scares me is the hate that a lot of these professionals have. And that anger, as you pointed out, is really what's bothering. I'm going to interject you with Brett. Brett, I want you to explain to us, because you're law enforcement, you're ex-law enforcement. Tell us a little bit about how you started and how you started seeing the Antifa movement grow. What happened?
Well, I just retired from a 29-year law enforcement career. I retired from Louisiana State Office of Juvenile Justice, which is juvenile probation, and my specialty was gang intelligence and gang suppression.
Okay.
And the Antifa starts off in a very interesting fashion. We can actually trace the roots of the term all the way back to post-war Europe, where there was anti-fascist sentiments that were brought out by the communists. And as you and I have talked many times, this whole Antifa situation is an outgrowth of the communists trying to take control of our country. Now, what is interesting about the situation is that we first see the forerunners of Antifa in 1999 at the World Trade Organization meeting in Seattle. And we see a group of young, predominantly white millennials come out, and they wear black hoods, they wear face masks, and primarily civil disobedience and property damage is their flavor of the day. And they refer to themselves as the Black Bloc. Now, at that time, it was very interesting because 157 people were arrested, but everybody was later released for lack of probable cause. And Paul, this is the really scary part about what we're seeing. And the first Berkeley protests were interesting in that vein as well, because what I'm going to say is going to shock many people, but Antifa is government approved. And the proof of this is the fact that at the first Berkeley protests, not only was Antifa government approved, but only the Trump supporters were searched for weapons. And then at a later Berkeley protest, there is video that can be seen where Antifa was actually using police-grade flashbang grenades and police-grade smoke grenades. And there are many who suspected that they possibly could have gotten this from the Berkeley police, because the Berkeley police were openly Antifa members. The mayor and the police chief were openly Antifa members and wearing Hillary Clinton support buttons. And that also brings up another interesting aspect of this, is that where this really got started for us was during the Trump rallies. And we started noticing that these Antifa types would come and would openly attack Trump supporters and would disrupt the rallies to stifle free speech. And it's ironic because Antifa is supposed to be against hate speech and promoting free speech, but of course it's just the opposite. And Paul, what you were talking about with the threat to the public, Antifa has increasingly grown more violent. They have videos out now where they are showing them practicing with weapons. Allegedly, Antifa has gotten together with some of the ISIS types and is supposedly receiving training from them. We do know for a fact that many of the Antifa are actually professional paid protesters that have been taught by professional communist agitators. And there are solicitations that can be found where people have advertised offering $2,500 a month in free legal services if they get arrested. Now, Paul, you were talking about violence towards the public. They have escalated their efforts. They have gone to using explosives in glass jars for fragmentation effect to hurt people at rallies. They have gone to using edged weapons and instead of just the regular flagpoles for impact. So these people at these Trump rallies really pose a significant threat. Now, there are some information that show that upwards of 200 different splinter groups are now in existence with the different Antifa factions, and they are well funded. Now, what we have seen is that the level of training and the level of sophistication of Antifa is still very low. They have high numbers.
I'm going to interject there for I'm going to interject Brett real quick. And okay. Marcos, have you you've experienced what Brett was talking about, correct?
Yeah. In Berkeley, they were throwing those M80s at us. They took our selfie sticks. We didn't have a selfie stick. We didn't have anything when we went in. And then later, when Antifa came, they had their bikes. That's when that bike lock. That's when they broke my friend's head. I'm friends with Kyle Chapman, and I follow Kyle very much everywhere he goes, because Kyle pretty much gave us the spine to fight these guys. But yeah, the police, they gave it a stand down, and we're pretty much outnumbered. And
of course, you see it in the videos. You see it in a lot of stuff that people have posted on Facebook, and you see the video being taken down, and you see it pop up again, and you see another view, and there's a lot of cell phones going of age. And I say this to the Democrats everywhere. I go, if you do not allow this type of behavior, then you all are the first ones to not support this type of behavior, okay? Because if this was happening, I don't care if you're Republican or if you're Democrat, but if I go up there and you're beating up an old lady with a lock or pushing her around, guess what's going to happen? You're more likely going to understand what asphalt is, okay? And that needs to be brought out there. We need to stop it. And for a long time, as Gould you were talking about, this Communist Party has hid within the ranks of the Democratic Party. It seems that way. It is now very much prevailing.
And you know what?
I'm pretty sure there's some factions of them within the Republican Party as well, and that has to be stopped as well. But what I'm trying to say is about the training that you bring in, and I'll get to Jen right now. And the first time I saw Antifa was when Bernie Sanders lost, and they went after Hillary Clinton, and they started breaking down an event where Hillary Clinton was going to be, and these were basically Bernie Sanders supporters. And I said to myself, wait a minute, there's a split within the Democratic Party. And I saw that right then and there. And I said, if that split continues, Trump is going to go right through her like a hot knife through butter. And he did. And that split became violent. And I think that the leaders of the Democratic parties want to ignore, they sidetrack, they don't want to acknowledge that this exists. And when we try to obscure that something exists and it's bad, well, guess what? All of a sudden, we have a problem. And I say this as a problem because in Facebook and in social media and in various other sources, Antifa has been claiming that they're going to start a civil uprising or Civil War II of the United States on November 4th. Now, I'm against the Civil War, okay? But if need be, I will protect my family, the loved ones that I have, my community, from such acts. Now, I'm going to go to Jen real quick. Jen, have you talk to me about what you've seen in the rallies?
Okay.
What you do?
Okay, so my name's Jen. You guys, I'm Texans United for America. I'm the vice president. And we hold the largest marches here in Texas. We have people that come in from all over. Our first march was a March for Trump. That was national. So we organized the large one in March. So that we did have a lot of threats with Antifa. They kept on emailing us, threatening to dox us. So it was kind of like a social media battle back and forth with lots of different Antifa members. We have a San Antonio page also that's for President Trump, where they printed or they published 150 of our members, all of our personal information, and were calling out to have us all killed. So
when you
that
say,
was reported.
when you see those threats, who did you report it to? Did you report it to Facebook? Because Facebook's really going to
We reported to Facebook, but it was also reported to the FBI. So we did send that up. But this is how Antifa works. They come in, they troll our pages, they try to intimidate our members, and scare them into not showing up to these events that we're holding. We had really bad press because the press came and were interviewing us, but kind of editing our interviews, cutting everything short, and trying to make it look like we were racist and we had white supremacists in our march, which we didn't. We had, racial backgrounds of every kind. So when we had our second one, this one was called the 1776 Freedom March. This one was held in July. And once again, Antifa was trolling our pages. They were threatening to throw feces at us. They were threatening to throw urine. And that scared off a lot of our march goers. They didn't want to show up and have urine thrown in their face. We have a lot of elderly people that want to show up and show their patriotism for the country. So it intimidated a lot. But this also created a lot of militia. We had militias come in from everywhere that wanted to protect patriots from Antifa, because they're making all these threats on social media, and they're creating event pages where they're saying we're gonna go and get them. And we had Kyle Chapman speak, we had Augustus Invictus speak, we had Outlaw Morgan coming in. That came in. We had Terrence Williams that joined us in the march, and other various speakers. So this was very. We were very concerned about the security for our speakers, and we were concerned about the security for our march goers.
Of course, and that security needs to be in there. And here you're in Texas. And I'm going to tell you something about two events that occurred at the same time, simultaneously, at the same time in the United States.
Right.
One was Charlottesville.
Charlottesville, yeah.
Yep. And the other one was San Antonio. Both dealt with the removal of a statue. One in San Antonio and one in Charlottesville. What went wrong? You had the same parties on both sides. You had Antifa and Black Lives Matter on both sides. You did not have what they claimed to be the KKK here in Texas. You had it in Charlottesville. But what you did have, that's a difference. And on both of them, you had presence of law enforcement. What the difference in law enforcement presence was that the ones in San Antonio were told to do their job, and that was to protect and keep the peace. The ones in Charlottesville, it seems now very obvious that they were told, as many say, stand down, and that's the difference.
Now, Paul, we have some new information that's come out. The whole Charlottesville thing, I don't know if you're aware, is basically a false flag operation because the man who supposedly led the alleged KKK, Kessler, a year ago was an Antifa member. And there's eyewitness accounts that the alleged KKK and the Antifa arrived on the same buses, and it was a staged event so that they could show a white supremacist element being fought by the courageous Antifa members.
This was where the narrative was built. This was the plan, you know.
Correct.
Augustus Invictus did not know a KKK were going to show up. Kessler was a Democrat. He only started to become a Trump supporter literally the day after Trump was nominated into office. So, I mean, that whole thing.
Rather convenient.
Yeah, it was very convenient for him, and it was just. I mean, we see it as he was an infiltration, you know, and that's a lot of people believe that. We interviewed a ton of our members from San Antonio. We had San Antonio members that drove all the way up there to Charlottesville. We had interviewed countless of them. They were afraid to even talk. They didn't want to come on shows because they knew the DOJ was investigating everybody on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And so they were they're intimidated to say what they saw because they didn't want to be a part of it.
What are you saying, Mr. Gould?
If you look at this thing from overhead, like a satellite view of this thing, the overall premise of this is very scary because if you look at what Jen just talked about with investigations, you look at the Bundy Ranch, the Mount Hill Reserve, Lavoie Finicum, all of this stuff, the FBI, the DOJ has come down on those people like a hammer. You look at the recent NCAA investigation with undercover operatives and wiretaps and all the FBI resources. We are not seeing that with Antifa because Antifa is government approved. We have deep state Obama operatives in these various organizations. I know Trump is president. I know Sessions is the AG. But the deep state operatives are protecting and allowing Antifa to operate with no sanction. And even if they get arrested publicly, they are later released, as the World Trade Center organization protest showed with the Black Bloc. It's all for show because these people are communists and they are government approved. The whole Charlottesville thing was just a show to show that, some nasty right-winger types showed up. Well, folks, they did that as a narrative to show Trump deplorables as, quote, white supremacists. But Paul and Jen, we have seen the actual facts that the violence is coming from the left. There are no right-wing violent people at these various demonstrations unless a Trump supporter gets attacked, like the big guy at one of the events, and he had to punch somebody to defend himself.
Exactly.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're being provoked. I mean, Marcos can speak to this because we only show up now wearing protection for our heads because, you know, we've been hit with big master locks on the head. You know, we show up with shields because, you know, they're attacking us with sticks and threatening to throw feces and urine at us. So, of course, we're going to show up with a shield. We're going to show up with protective gear on our heads, goggles on our eyes because we're being maced in the eye. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that Marcos has seen. Marcos, you show up to these events at Berkeley and California, you know, San Francisco. You know, I was going to fly out there and meet you in San Francisco, and we were going to go to that event which was canceled because the mayor was calling it hate speech. And but we knew what we were in for. I mean, they were telling us no sticks, no shield for your head, no protective gear. You know, we were going to go with our baseball caps that have those built-in, you know, headgear because we've got to protect ourselves. We don't show up with weapons wanting to fight them. We show up with things protecting ourselves from them.
And
going back,
you've seen that. Go ahead.
Going back to what you were saying about November 4, in the last event in San Francisco and Greasyfield, usually the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, and a lot of militia show up to help us protect us, but they didn't show up because they are very concerned, and they said, I don't know how much of this I can say, but they're training for what could happen. So this November
Let me
4,
tell
they
you one
keep
thing.
repeating this. They've been repeating this. So
keep-
yeah, they definitely have something big for November 4.
And they're not going to stand down. The militia is not standing down.
There's number one, I have faith in our current administration, and I have faith in the generals that we have. We have the best generals in the world, and we have the General Mathis. I'm glad that he's there. Okay, I don't think number one's going to happen if something's like a civil war is going to. I think they're going to be into a rude awakening.
Right.
Okay, number one, and I think there's Democrats that have not seen what has been festering under their carpets, and I think it's time to, guess what? Let's take that rug outside and either throw it away and do a little bit of house cleaning, and I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to see that happening more now here, especially here in Texas. And California, I don't know, but I still have faith that there's still a lot of great people within both Democratic parties.
Well, it's like, Marcos, remember what Joey Gibson did at Berkeley when he threw his hands in the air and Antifa was trying to attack him? Nancy Pelosi had no choice but to come out with a statement speaking against the violence, had it not been for national press to be there and film him doing that to show that the right is not trying to fight them, we're simply there for free speech, then she would never have came out with a statement against it. It's like we need more of Democrats in Congress and Senate to start speaking out against this kind of violence.
No, definitely.
To the right.
Definitely.
Yeah, just go, Jen, you're right on that. And after that,
as the violence escalates, I think a lot of the Democrats are starting to see that their convenient creation is running amok. And one other interesting thing too is the famous picture of the young girl who punched the big guy at the Trump rally, and then he basically punched her and dropped her. It was later shown that she was paid as a professional mercenary type person to go up to a large Trump supporter and to start a fight and to get hit and take the hit, to show that Trump deplorables are misogynist and we're down on women. This is all part of a larger agenda with a very communist narrative. None of this stuff is happening by accident. And the Democrats are going to have to wake up and find out that their Frankenstein creation has now turned on them. It is not what they originally thought it was going to be.
Let me put it to you this way. I don't think the communists of America would stand by themselves alone as a communist party. You would not have it. So they have to side somewhere, and they have to hide within places. And it's kind of like in South Texas. In South Texas, everything's Democrat. Okay, the majority is Democrat. So where do the Republicans go? They have to run as a Democrat. In other words, for them to get their voice in there. So that's what happens. You understand my drift? So what happens with the Communist Party, especially these communist movements like Antifa, which is now we're finding out that that's what it extremely is. They hide behind another party that has a little bit more voice, and I think that's what has happened.
True.
That's true. Yeah.
And one thing that I'm going to get back into training, and I'm going to I know Mr. Gould and I, we talk about not only martial arts, we've talked about many other things. I started raising an eyebrow around January of this year, February of this year. I started seeing a lot of flyers from Antifa to go out and get training of certain styles of martial arts. And those martial arts are styles that were very easy to learn, and they were very combative to use. And I started seeing a trend of certain martial artists, again, hating those that supported Trump or hated that want to see America prosper. And now you start seeing, and then on some of the other videos, you started seeing some of these Antifa use these sticks, use these weapons of stylistic to those martial arts styles. Okay? So they are getting some training. They are posturing out there. And if you're a martial artist Now, I'm not talking about the chop and block schools in the corner. I'm talking about that you've studied combative arts that are out there. You're going to see the different stylistic usages of each system. And some of them are being seen in some of these videos. Some of the videos in Charlottesville, some of the videos in Berkeley. And then I started talking to several of the other friends of ours that are martial arts colleagues, and we started noticing a pattern. Then, anybody, if you think that I'm wrong, go to YouTube. Type in Wing Chun against riot shields. Again, Wing Chun against riot shields. They're teaching you there on YouTube how to fight somebody that's a riot police or riot control.
Yeah, riot police. That's what they're teaching.
So they're teaching them how to fight against that, and it's out there and it's open. So, are they looking for a fight? They've told us they are by the way they're acting. So expect something that they're going to try to do on November 4th.
Well, they've raised like $50,000. I think they've passed their goal already for that November 4th for advertising across the country, banners, social media campaigns to incite violence across the country and provoke. So this is what they're doing. And they're not going to stop. They're saying November 4th is when it begins, and it's just the beginning. And they're asking all leftists or Antifa members, Black Lives Matter to continue the fight past November 4th and not to stop. And they're raising thousands and thousands of dollars right now to campaign for that.
And one thing we haven't talked about is the fact that the Antifa types do not sleep. The conservatives, and I use the word conservative because a lot, what Paul said, a lot of Republicans have been co-opted to the wrong causes. Conservatives need to wake up and see what is going on. These Antifa types are like fire ants and termites. They are continually working. They are continually motivated, striving, building organization, doing this martial arts training and money. We conservatives have to understand that everything we have just talked about documents an escalation in violence, escalation, improvement in weapons, escalation in overall strategy, larger tactics, larger levels of violence, larger engagements. They're talking civil war. These people are serious. They are not just joking around. This is not just a bunch of skateboard punks anymore who want to misbehave. People are getting hurt. They are planning bigger events. And the conservative folks, the good folks, the mom and pop people with families and stuff need to realize they really need to think about their safety, concealed carry, everyday carry of weapons, training. I mean, it's sad to say we've come down to this, but we are at a point where people's safety is in doubt.
Well, I want to say, and I want to add to that, because it's not just the younger demographic. This has broadened into an older demographic as well, joining Antifa. We have our militias, but they've got some people on the left joining them that are military, former, they're teachers, some of them, educated and joining this movement with Antifa and other groups like La Raza and Black Lives Matter, all
correct,
all joining in there and inciting violence and making it okay. So that's definitely a concern.
In the age bracket, in the past couple of months, 2 weeks ago, we saw a 60-odd-year-old millionaire that had his life going forward open fire on a concert. And you had, right away, you had one of the Antifa pages say, "That is our comrade." And you also have the one that took shots that are trying to kill our congressman at the baseball park. These are 60-year-old men. These aren't kids that are 24, 25 college kids. These are 60-year-old men. Understand? Granted, kind of, they might have, I don't know, their background. You know, there's a lot of stuff going all over the place, especially with the Las Vegas shooter, and what a tragedy that was. And I guess we're never going to find out exactly what really happened. But so do not think that it's just to a certain demographics. This is all over. It's across the board. Like I said before.
And Paul,
go ahead.
The other thing to look at in what you just said is to take those acts and put them in a larger context. You go back last year where we went from Trump deplorables being attacked at rallies, okay?
Correct.
Then we see BLM blocking roads. Then we see riots with BLM. Then we see Antifa at the D.C. inauguration of Trump burning vehicles and attacking people.
They were spitting on people going into bowls.
Correct. Then we see Scalise get shot. Now, think about this in terms of seriousness. This is the number 2 man behind Paul Ryan, the second most powerful Republican in the country, also in line of presidential succession, because Paul Ryan is in the succession line. Then we have the incident in Las Vegas. And what I'm getting at is, if we go from the election time till now, look at where we are at. We are at a mass shooting event with serious weapons, with numerous people hurt, and that's where we're at now. So my theory I'm postulating is, if that is the true escalation of our violence, where will we be at this time next year if the geometric progression of this violence increases? I mean, what are we going to see? Are we going to see a dirty bomb at the Super Bowl by these Antifa types? Are we going to see a mass gas attack like we saw in the Japan subways? I mean, the levels of their violence is increasing in a geometric progression. So if you put that on paper, the next event is going to be something catastrophic. No,
you're absolutely correct. Because when you get into an escalation in the sense of self-defense, into a fight, in a combative situation, it always goes up. It doesn't go down. It doesn't descale. Mm-hmm. It escalates. So you're going to see a little bit. You're going to see a little bit difference. This is my opinion, and my opinion about 250 is going to get you coffee at McDonald's. Okay, so I see a lot of Democrats waking up, and I see a major split in the Democratic Party within the next year and a half. And
I agree.
And I believe that you're going to see a socialist communist party of America just all of a sudden come out of the Democratic Party, and you're going to see the Republican Party split into a type of, like it did with what was it, Tea Party, and it's going to split again. So watch what's going to happen with the next year, in this year and a half, going on 2 years in here, if it continues this way. Democrats, the true Democrats, I'm not talking about those that are hiding behind another issue, another agenda. The true Democrats are going to realize, wait a minute, leaders. You're not going to get our support because guess what? My businesses over here just got burnt down. Okay? So you're going to see a split. You're going to see things change. What do you think that, Marco?
Yeah, definitely. There is indications of that. And just going a little bit of what Brett was saying, as far as the there is, see, in Berkeley they haven't been consistent. So definitely the city or whoever controls these guys are telling them when to show up in big numbers and when not, and when to do damage. So somebody is controlling this big monster. And there was a police report that said that they were concerned that public officials or community leaders were joining these guys.
For sure.
So,
I mean, you saw
so
that in Seattle.
Yeah. So La Raza, the Cesar Chavez movements, and all that. It seems that they have the same tactics. There's a flyer with my face and Kyle, and they call us neo-Nazis. all over Oakland and Berkeley, and so if you read if you go to itsgoingdown.org and you read their flyers, you're gonna see that they're very tactical, and whoever is writing this it's intellectuals, it's professionals that are writing almost like court documents when they're doxing us. So yeah, you have teachers. Yvette Valarca, she's a professor, and then the Eric is a professor. So we're fighting people that have experience in politics, and they're definitely they're putting together a new party, just like you're saying. I think they're already acting like that. It doesn't look like. And then Nancy Pelosi, she didn't want to own their baby, but Antifa is their baby, and they need to take responsibility for it.
I think we heard Whoopi Goldberg on The View. Whoopi Goldberg was saying, well, we don't really know who Antifa belongs to. They belong to the left.
No,
there's so many that are starting to back away. They're embarrassed because of the violence they've been inciting.
That's what I'm telling you, that the true Democrats are going to say, wait a minute, that's not us. They're going to stand up. You're going to see a split down there. There's two things that need to happen in this country. Number one, both the House and Senate, we need term limits, period, across the board. That's something that we should all be striving for. This is something that we should all be voicing and trying to change and trying to get going. Okay? We're running out of time. It was great conveying with everybody here. The only thing that I say is this. If you're out there and you're getting inside a crowded area where you start seeing somebody that's masked, take it as a threat. Because when somebody comes at you, especially if I'm walking down the street and has a scarf over his face, it means two things. They're either going to try to rob me or kill me. So that's just the way it is.
And get away with
it. If you mask yourself, you're either a thief or an assassin. And that's what's going to end up happening. And I'm glad I live in Texas, and I'm glad we have concealed carry. And I tell everybody out there, know your self-defense. Use your own judgment and stay away from you start seeing these crowded areas. If you want to go out there and say, wave at the president and so on and so forth, do it safely, because he's doing a hell of a job.
I also want to add, well, I guess and it was a real pleasure being on your show. This was fun. But I want to add, we only had 7% of people get involved in our local election in San Antonio. And that's really sad because it's predominantly mostly liberal run. They're doing a lot of things behind closed doors. People are not voting, and it's upsetting a lot of people. Get upset. Get so upset that you get more involved in the local elections. This is very important across the board.
Exactly.
We need everyone to get more involved. If not, then don't complain, because you're kind of doing it to yourself. You need to get up, get registered, and get involved.
I have a hat that they made me, and it says, if you don't vote, you can't bitch.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And everybody needs to go out there. Laredo has low turnouts, and people are always complaining. And the first thing that they say is, "It's already bought. Why vote?" I
think with this whole Antifa movement, though, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing over there, Marcos, but I think this is going to incite a lot more people to get up and get in there and start voting in their local elections. You're removing statues in our local cities, and you're erasing history left and right. So I think this is actually inciting more people to want to get up in there and vote.
And that's a trend from the communism. And if you guys, Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, if you want this to become another Venezuela,
well,
you're on the right path. So now you guys better stand up.
A big movement that's going on here in California, it's the indigenous groups.
I think has shown that the...
Oh, 1 second, Brett.
Brett, let's one at a time. Go ahead, Marcos, and then Brett comes in after that. Brett? Marcos, you're first. The last thing for you.
I just wanted to add a little bit here that I have noticed that all these brown berets and the indigenous groups and all that, they have a Zapatismo characteristic.
Yes, exactly right.
Zapatismo was a socialist liberal. And we need to be careful with that because they align with the Antifa perfectly, and they're a big force here in California, and they're part of that November 4th.
Yeah. You're gonna see what's gonna come out of this, and hopefully nothing bad. Brett, last word before we cut off.
Well, the last election, the presidential election, has shown that there is a pulse of anger, a simmering pot of anger amongst conservatives about how this country is being run. This escalation of violence and all of this stuff, these Antifa communist types do not know what they are asking for. They have awakened the sleeping dragon. It's awake now.
Oh, yeah.
The NFL protest and all this stuff is a sign. The boycotts are a sign that the American public, the anger is rising, and it's going to result in things happening. And we'll be here to watch and see it.
No, yeah. And Jen, last word?
No, I think I just said my last word for that.
You guys, it was fun. It was great. It's great to bring this out to the open. Many people do not understand. Not only Republicans, but also Democrats. Listen, we live in the best country in the world. Let's keep it that way. Okay?
That's right.
And peace for our country. And let's stand up for our flag. If you do not like the flag and you want to kneel, don't be an asshole. You can go protest by yourself. But again, thank you guys.
Thank you, Paul.